Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It is 2 p.m. on Thursday, October 15, 2020, and we are ready for our next presenter, who is Francesc Fuste-Forner with the Department of Business at the University of Girona in Catalonia, Spain. And Francesc is having bandwidth issues, so I am going to share my screen and load his presentation on my screen. Give us 1 second.
If anyone has any questions during the presentation, again, please post them in the chat box and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, good morning to everyone, and thank you so much for being here, and thank you to the organizers of this conference. It's a pleasure for me to be here to present my research together with leading researchers in the field of food tourism. And my particular research is on cheese tourism, and this is entitled Tourism Value for Cheese, Rural versus Urban. And here the first issue we need to quickly discuss in the next slide is the concept of gastronomy tourism. So what's the role of gastronomy or food tourism for destinations? And here we have plenty of definitions. Of course, the widest accepted definitions are those elaborated by Lucy Long and Hall and Sharples. So Long mentioned that the food tourism refers to the discovery of a culture through food. And later on, Hall and Sharples added that the food tourism journey includes a wide range of activities and experiences which involve tasting the product, visiting restaurants, festivals, visiting farmers, the fields. And I also like very much the definition of the World Food Travel Association, which refers to food tourism as the journey to taste a place in order to get a sense of place, which is the parting point of this cheese tourism journey. We started a few years ago. So in the next slide, we can observe one of the three main factors in the development of gastronomy tourism. So when we talk about gastronomy tourism, we need to discuss, first of all, the authenticity. So a couple of days ago, if you want to go to next slide, please, Eric. A couple of days ago, I joined a conversation. I was attending a conversation in this same platform about the meaning of authenticity and how to keep the food tourism authentic, and the tours, the experiences we are building around the food heritages. And of course, we cannot just deepen on this topic in just 20-25 minutes, but authenticity refers, as we understand authenticity as a two-side concept. On one side, we need to consider the environmental, the geographical factors which provide the food with a particular taste of place, and also the cultural heritage, which refers to the tradition which is involved around the food and culinary heritages, as I will review later. Anyway, authenticity also encapsulates the historical and social dynamics of a place. Then the other factor is the regional development in the next slide, which means that when we plan food tourism practices and activities, we need to actively consider the opinion perspectives of the local stakeholders. There are many local producers that are not quite happy to get involved with tourism. Of course, there are others that they want to materialize this relationship between food and tourism. But anyway, we need to take into account that they are primarily doing farming or growing, or like all those activities involved with the primary sector. So when planning this connection between food and tourism, we need to think how this will impact on the local and regional development, and of course this involves the farmers or the growers. And the third issue, which complements this understanding of gastronomy tourism, so we have authenticity, regional development, and in the next slide, the tourist experience. Also, again, many research has been done to define what the tourist experience means, and specifically the food tourist experience. So here I share with you this cheese tourism wheel we did build in order to analyze how this connection between cheese and tourism is materialized within the destinations, and we observe here a range of practices which are also related to this definition of Holland Sharples I was mentioning before. And we find, of course, the visits to the production areas, to the handicraft workshops, the farm or the food or other type of tours, the selling, also the tasting of the foods in restaurants, markets, festivals, and of course the buying of food, or in this case the buying of cheese as a souvenir, and not only as a food souvenir, but also as a non-food souvenir, as we'll see later. So in the next slide, I will quickly describe the study method, because this is not a single research. I mean, during the last almost decade, we've been analyzing this topic in different countries around the world. So in some cases, we did participant observations. In other cases, we did in-depth interviews. So mostly drawing from qualitative research, we have tried to explore the perspectives on cheese tourism, best practices, and in terms of geographically, the geographical location, we've been placed our research in Spain, of course, both in Catalonia and also other parts of Spain, like Roncal in Navarra. And then also we did some field work in the Netherlands, in Poland, and also in New Zealand, both in the North and South Island. So with all of this, we have been publishing some papers, and we are still working on in order to build this notion of cheese as a destination landmark. And what I will present in the next slides is how we have analyzed the cheese tourism experience from a rural and from an urban perspectives. So during the first years of the research, we mostly focus on rural environments. And here we have four conclusions or four findings. First of all, how cheese combines the environmental factors. So of course, cheese comes from the milk, which is obtained from the animals who are grazing and feeding in the land. So the climate, the soil, the landscape itself provides a particular taste to food, in this case to cheese. And this is unique, and this cannot be recreated elsewhere. I mean, if we are tasting a cheese in Roncal Valley, or we are tasting a cheese in the South Island of New Zealand, that cheese can only be made in that particular way in that place. And here it's important that even in the same destination, the taste of cheese changes, because it's not the same cheese in summer than in winter, because the grass that the animals eat is not the same in summer than in winter. So this is the first important issue in terms of communicating cheese in a rural environment. The importance of the animals, and of course the environment and the landscapes where these animals are grazing and feeding. So the second point here is the machinery in the next slide. So the tools, how we make cheese, what are the traditions embedded in cheese making, and this is all the cultural knowledge that is communicated from generation to generation, and it goes from the cheese production to the cheese consumption. It involves all this intangible cultural heritage plus the tangibility of the tools of the machinery that we use to produce cheese, to cook cheese. And it also refers, for example, to the cookbooks. So in the case of Catalonia, we have cookbooks which were published in the medieval ages, in the 13th, 14th century, which already include recipes with cheese. And the third issue in the next slide is the people. So we have the nature, it means the where. We have the culture, it means the how. And here we have the people, it means the who. And in rural settings, we are able to have a close relationship with the cheesemakers. So the cheesemakers are like the keepers of the tradition. They are safeguarding this authenticity chain from the land to plate, no, from farm to fork, because they are the people who make the cheese from the milk from the animals, who and the landscape, no. And there are plenty of points of context. Let's say not only to get to meet the cheesemaker in the farm gate or in the fields, but also the traditional rural farmers markets are an ideal spot where we can get advice directly from the people who make the cheese and who know all this historical tradition behind the product. And finally, in the next slide, we observe some of the possibilities that this rural food tourism experience offers. And as I said, we can visit, for example, the handicraft shop. We can visit the cellars in Spain. You know, there is a region in northern Spain, in Asturias, Cantabria, where they make cabrales, and the cellars are the caves. So they are maturating the cheeses in natural caves. And this, of course, again, transfers a particular taste to the final product. No, then we of course have the cheese tastings, and here in the middle of the slide is an example of a non-food product, which is these are soaps made of goat's milk. So this is also another option that these local farmers, local small regional producers are doing in order to get involved with these tourism circuits. So if we now move to the urban environments in the next 4 slides, we also came with 4 main findings. So of course the first issue or the first conflict here emerged from this global connection. So earlier today in some of the presentation it was also mentioned, and we need to take into account that when we travel, we will not only find food which is originated in the country we are visiting. So we need to consider the migration process, also the tourism processes, and today urban environments are featured by a sense of cosmopolitanism, a sense of multiculturalism. And this means that the people who is selling, in this case, cheese, also needs to consider this diversity of tastes. So we have here, for example, a cheese shop in Jauda. By the way, this is a very touristic place, but it serves me to illustrate what I mean. So there is here the authentic Jauda cheese, and then you have plenty of flavored cheeses. So some of them are tomato flavored, basil, garlic, which could be more usual tastes. But also we have, for example, a wasabi flavored cheese. This means that we are trying to meet also the requirements from the demand, and I would say not only tourism demand but also the local demand, because of these migration processes which been happening and still going on, and it makes us, or it urges us to offer a variety of tastes in order that also people who is living in our city but it's not from our city can still have let's say a sense or a taste of the place where they come from. But anyway, this conflict between local and global tastes arise, and we do not have enough time. Maybe in the time for questions, we'll be able to further discuss it. And this brings me to the next slide, which is the importance of the origin. So we did a study in the municipal markets of Costa Daurada in southeastern Catalonia, and we did interview all the stallholders that were selling cheese in order to compile the origin of all the products and the reasons why people were buying one type of cheese or another. No, and we came up with three types of cheeses which were sold, and then later we also spoke to some of the customers. And we have, first of all, the local regional cheeses, which are mostly related to a sense of contribution to the local economy. I mean, local people who buy local cheeses, they of course want to keep this taste of where they are living, but also they buy this type of cheeses to help or to contribute to local and regional economies. Then we have the national cheeses, and these cheeses are sold and bought because of mostly the quality levels. And here we have plenty of examples in Spain. Spain got almost 30 cheeses which are acknowledged with quality level. I mean, the protected geographical indication or the origin designation of origin. And we have examples of Manchego, Zamorano, Cabrales again, and some others. And then in the third option is the international cheeses, and here it's similar with what happens with the national quality cheeses, but in terms of international brands, we all know several products like the Gouda, like Parmesano, like Camembert, Roquefort, which are not only national acknowledged cheeses, but they also have a brand image all over the world. No, and of course this is associated to even a higher quality product than those we have in the national landscape. And these international brands like Gouda, in the next slide, is what we realized that are creating a real demand for cheese tourism. So in the next slide, we observe the cheese market in Gouda, and this is a very important tourism spot, I would say, not only in the Netherlands but in the whole Europe. And we all know that it's difficult for small rural cheesemakers to be a main reason for traveling. They are also part of the offer in rural, mountain, and natural settings. But what is giving cheese a primary role in the food tourism experience is these international cheese brands, like the one we have in the slide. No, so how the cheese market and all the cityscapes which are focused on cheese are going a step further into this process of awarding tourism value to cheese. And we have, of course, the example of Camembert Village, for example, which would act in a similar way, and other cheese markets in the own Netherlands, like Edam or others. So in the next slide, finally, and before going to the conclusion, and still in terms of urban environments, we have the restaurants. So the restaurants, food services, which are the most important factor in terms of tourism expenditure. And also restaurants have helped for decades to these small cheesemakers to have their product placed in a tourism environment. So another thing here is if the menus of the restaurants are including properly the origin of the product when this product is coming from the surroundings. Because here we did some analysis of restaurant menus, and still a lot of work is needed towards the acknowledgement of these origins of the product, because considering that restaurants are the main gate entry for tourists to know the culinary culture of destinations, there is a lot of work which could be done in connecting these local producers with the restaurant industry. But anyway, they are the most important asset in urban environments, and also to connect with the visitors. So finally, in the next slide is the brief conclusion. So we have observed in terms of rural areas this clear connection, not only with the natural idiosyncrasies, but also the cultural factors that come from historical and social dynamics. And then the people who is involved with the creation of this storytelling, and who are the people who really need to materialize the way they want this connection between cheese and tourism. And from the other side, we observe cities, urban environments, as they agglutinate the main tourist flows globally. So of course they mean that they have an extra power in terms of awarding this tourism value to food products. And here, of course, more research is coming, especially from the demand perspective, in terms of deciphering these motivation reasons, both to visit and to revisit destination because of its food, and especially because of its cheese. And an important asset which we also need to consider, obviously, nowadays, is the impact of the pandemic, this pandemic context, into the construction and the promotion, marketing, etc., of the food tourist experience. So until here is my presentation. In the next slide is the last slide. I want to say thank you all for your attention, and I will be pleased to answer and comment any questions you may have. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your presentation. I find cheese fascinating. The one question that I have that came up in your presentation, you mentioned souvenirs, but I didn't see a lot of in the presentation about souvenirs. Are there any best practices for people to either order that you've seen from a cheesemaker that does a great job on providing souvenirs, or providing shipping for people to enjoy those cheeses at home?
Yes, thank you for your question. So there are, when I was talking about souvenirs, I mean, just when you can buy the product as to take back home as a souvenir, I mean, to enjoy yourself, or to give as a present to some people, your friends or relatives. And of course, there are also some cheese producers that are also allowing to buy their cheeses online, of course.
Perfect. Yeah, our research for World Food Travel Association says it's very important to have these, not just souvenirs available to take home, but then people can buy them later in life because they want to be reminded of these trips. So awesome.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for your presentation. If everyone just wants to log off and then just go back to your link, click in, and we'll have the next presenter up in about 3 more minutes. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.